From spy satellites to men on the moon, all the way to a literal battle in the cosmos, here are the top 10 secret space missions you've never heard of before. Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have ALMAZ. ALMAZ was a super secret Soviet military space station program that began in the early 1960s. Basically, there were 3 separate stations that were launched between 1973 and 1976, and they were crewed military recon stations. How they kept the whole thing more under wraps is that they designed them like civilian space stations. One of the stations failed shortly after achieving orbit, but the last 2 both were successful in their crew testing. Although there was success on these flights, the cost associated with them and the benefits of the program weren't matching up, so in the end it didn't go further than there, although the technology used in this program has of course gone on to inform others. In our number 9 spot today, we have Long March 2F. Last year in 2020, China claimed to have successfully launched and tested a quote reusable spacecraft, which is said to be a space plane that could be the key to frequent and low-cost access to space, which is a crazy thing to say. While this is very exciting and could potentially help space exploration in very valuable ways, it is said that this particular mission still has quite a bit of mystery surrounding it. It is said that while the launch was viewed by people, the exact nature of the craft itself as well as what it did in space isn't quite clear. An unnamed military source that was quoted by the South China Post apparently said that there were many firsts during this launch, which is why everything is so secretive and secure. At the end of the day, all we can do is sit back, watch, and see what happens. Who knew there was so much drama in the space world? Well, I kind of guess everyone did. I mean, take a look at the space race. In our number 8 spot today, we have Corona. Speaking of the space race, if you're unfamiliar, it was the 20th century competition between the Soviet Union and the United States, and it certainly was something that the world had never seen before. Basically, it was each country trying to one-up each other on spaceflight technology and capabilities, and while this competition had its origins in the missile-based nuclear arms race, it also managed to create a lot of technological advancements in the world of space exploration. Doing recon was truly one of the first priorities of both of these countries when it came to actually going to space, and that is why from 1960 to 1972, a recon project with the now terrible nickname Corona was put into effect. Basically, this project was a series of strategic recon satellites that were produced and operated by the CIA Directorate of Science and Technology with additional help from the US Air Force. So basically, the most incredible minds and those with the highest security clearances were in on this top secret mission. These satellites were then used to provide photographic surveillance of both the Soviet Union and China. Basically, at the time, everyone was really worried about nuclear power, and this gave them the opportunity to peek behind the curtain and see what was really going on. In our number 7 spot today, we have Spaceship One. On July 26, 2007, there was an explosion that occurred at a rocket propulsion test site at the Mojave Air and Spaceport in California. This explosion caused the death of 3 people, and 3 others had to be hospitalized for serious injuries. While there were details released about this event, the exact specifics of how this happened were kept shrouded in mystery for quite some time. Basically, the explosion occurred just 3 seconds after the start of a cold flow test of nitrous oxide, or laughing gas. The test was because, during the planned suborbital space trips, the nitrous oxide would then be used as an oxidizer to ignite a fuel of solid rubber, and the test was to check that the fuel system plumbing works, and it wasn't meant to ignite anything. There were about 7 people there for the test, but most of them were behind a barrier that is used when testing things like rockets. Because of the nature of the test, there would seemingly be no reason for it to explode, but it obviously still did, and the reason as to how and why was kept a secret from the public. In our number 6 spot today, we have Shenzhou-21. Not too long ago, China launched a satellite called Shenzhou-21 designed to test new ways to clean up space debris, which is super cool and actually really important. This is all fine and well, but here's where the mysterious part comes in. Basically, something else has joined in orbit with the satellite, and the US Space Force detected and cataloged it, and while they thought they knew what it was, it turns out that they don't, because it's not acting as expected. They thought it was a type of rocket body, but now they're just left with more questions than answers. Now there are doubts about whether it even is this rocket body or if it is an entirely different object, and regardless, what is the plan with it? This is all a precarious situation, as many world powers are testing out certain anti-satellite technologies, which of course would be problematic for all the other countries. There's a good chance that we will likely never know the entire truth about the purpose of of what the object trailing Xianjiang 21 is, but it's for sure keeping the Air Force on the lookout, and the rest of us can just sit and speculate and hope it's nothing bad for us. In our number 5 spot today we have the fallen astronaut. This isn't exactly a space mission, but it is something that happened in space and not a lot of people know about it, and it certainly was not something NASA knew about before it took place. The fallen astronaut is an aluminum sculpture that was meant to depict an astronaut in a spacesuit. The piece was commissioned and placed on the moon by the crew of the Apollo 15 on August 1st, 1971. It is next to a plaque that lists the 14 names of the men who died, and the entire thing is meant to be a tribute and to commemorate the astronauts and cosmonauts who have died in the advancement of space exploration. This wasn't cleared prior to being done, but I think the important thing is that it was done. The sacrifice of those people cannot be overstated, and it was for the benefit of us all. Those people were brave and brilliant, and they deserve to be commemorated in the best way possible, on the moon itself. In our number 4 spot today we have X-37B. In 2009 at NASA's Kennedy Space Center, they received a mysterious visitor at the Air Force's super secret X-37B spaceplane returned from orbit. This spaceplane went on a record-breaking mission as the unmanned spacecraft was in orbit for the last 780 days before autonomously returning to Earth. While we obviously know about the return of this craft, we will likely never know about exactly what went on. The most information we have is that the Air Force Research Laboratory used the spaceplane as an orbital platform to conduct highly classified experiments. That is both super cool and super terrifying. Apparently the spaceplane deployed a few small satellites, and the experiments were meant to test different technologies from avionics to advanced propulsion systems. The return of this spaceplane actually marked the 5th successful mission for the plane, which is super impressive. While being very secretive, this plane captured the attention of many amateur spy satellite hunters, but it proved to be difficult to keep tabs on because the spaceplane had the ability to alter its orbit in space. That means it requires a lot of vigilance to keep track of, exactly like a super secret plane should. In our number 3 spot today we have Artemis 1. This one is less of a top secret mission and more so on the side of being one you maybe haven't heard of because it hasn't quite happened yet. Artemis 1 is a planned uncrewed test flight that's a part of NASA's Artemis program. The Artemis program is a United States-led international human spaceflight program. Basically the goal is to return humans to the moon, most specifically the South Pole area of the moon. The aim is to have humans there by 2025, and if successful, this would be the first crewed lunar landing mission since Apollo 17 that took place in 1972. That's wild! There's people in space right now, and we haven't taken a trip back to the moon since 1972? I'm just glad we're working on heading there. Artemis 1 is expected to launch no earlier than February of 22, but it is likely to get pushed back until the summer. And while we wait with bated breath, making sure everything is fully prepared for the mission is more important than rushing. This mission will be the first flight of the Orion MPCV, and it will be the certification for the Orion spacecraft as well as the Space Launch System launch vehicle to see if they are ready for crewed flights. If all goes well, crewed flights will begin with the second flight test, Artemis 2. In our number 2 spot today we have an entanglement. Not too long ago, actually just over a week ago as of filming this video, Russia successfully launched a classified military satellite that is said to be a part of Moscow's early warning anti-missile system. Just shortly after this, like we're talking just hours after this, China also had a space launch. They launched their Xi'an 11 satellite into space, which is thought to be in a testing or trial phase right now, with its eventual mission being kept a secret. While all of this is of course fine and well, the one concerning thing is that people are starting to speculate that perhaps these missions might be linked and that there is a possibility that Russia and China are working together out in space. Who knows really, and there's a high chance that this is just a space coincidence, and I'm not trying to start a space gossip column. Either way, whatever this test satellite is that China launched, we don't know what it will one day be used for, but we can all wait together because whatever it is, it's likely to be probably exciting. In our number 1 spot today we have the Manned Orbiting Laboratory. Okay, so you remember the Soviet Union's secret ALMAZ mission we talked about at the beginning of this video in number 10? Well, here's another mission that was like in response to that. Basically, this program called the Manned Orbiting Laboratory was run by the Air Force and the intelligence community's National Reconnaissance Office, and the goal of it was to spy on and throw the Soviet Union off track. Some of the documents in this mission have now been declassified, and according to them, one of the goals was to knock some of Moscow's satellites satellites out of orbit or to fire projectiles at them. They even wanted to try and capture one of the Soviet satellites in space and then basically send it back down to Earth so that they could study it. That's wild! And here's the thing that I couldn't tell you before about the ALMAZ that I can tell you now. Moscow equipped their secret space station with a rapid-fire cannon in order to stop any of this from happening. I seriously feel like I'm watching some sort of space action movie. I can't believe these are real things that happened and were created in the 60s and 70s of all the times. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thank you so much for checking it out. Let me know down below in the comments if you had heard of any of these before, or if you have any other super secret space missions to tell us about. I've been your host today, Olivia Kozolowski, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!